Hello everyone, Kurt Olfer here and welcome back to another episode from Hellfighter Labs. Today we continue on within our 6-Master Dagger covers and also the follow-on techniques. And today we're going to be looking at a position of the 6-Master Dagger and how, if we maintain ourselves into there, how we can roll, or in this case, Mezza Volta, into a position that allows us to stab an opponent. Now, this play right here for me is very fascinating because it is an example of where the term Mezza Volta is used before it is introduced later on in the sword section. It's plays like this right here that I actually find very fascinating because this to me tells you that Mezza Volta is not just a sword thing, it's a mechanics thing, which is why I put out my mechanics, my terms, mechanics, everything else as far as what I think they are in earlier videos. So with that being the case here, we get to see that the term Mezza Volta is used, and we get to see how that is turned and used in certain directions here against somebody, and we're going to look at that within the play. The other thing I really like about this right here is that essentially you are now seeing another concept that will be built on with other positions within 6-Master Dagger, where he doesn't say it in this one, but he says it afterwards, where you start to see the comment of, I make this parry without abandoning the 6-Master parry. He doesn't say it in this play, however, he's performing that. And the other place later on when he says, where I don't abandon this, that tells me significantly that he's maintaining the grip in that form. So with that being the case here, we're gonna see what that breaks down to and see where other things may be, where it may tie into other portions of the manual. So let's get into it.
Okay, so this week we are continuing on with 6-Master Dagger, and we are focusing on a part right here where Fury essentially tells us that he can utilize a Mezza Volta. Now, from my observation, this can either be your feet or your hands. And I say this right here because I know there's only one spot in the entire manuscripts that he's got out there where he states what a Mezza Volta is. Now with the Mezza Volta, earlier videos I've talked about how Mezza Volta here is I'm playing on one side, I'm playing on the other. That type of rotational thing right here that allows you to swing things, allows you to turn people, allows you to grapple people. For me and how I teach our Mezzari, Mezza Volta of the sword is really in reference to the wrist. So this is Mezza Volta. This is a half turn. I can go 180 degrees. It's a half turn. That's all I can do. If I was to do a tutta volta, it's a full rotation right here. Your first Master Dagger, where you pop and turn around this way, that's an example of it. Volta stabile is keeping your hand in a place where you play only on one side, not turning it over. I'm keeping it into the same direction. Just as clarification points here, because we're going to talk about that shortly. So because of that, that's a component of this right here that is very important. So because you have that mechanic, that's a mechanic that becomes a component here. So the image that we're talking about here today is this one. And again, if we go off of that 6-Master cover, so he's come in here, we'll just use the Mandrito for right now. And this is the image that we have here from the very get-go. How we make it here is we rotate the wrist. Now that tells me two things. I'm not doing this. So if my dagger's off like this, I can just turn the body here. So that's a half turn, okay? So from here to here, that is no different than me being here to here. That's two sides of one spot. So he comes in with this. I'm offline like this right here. The pressure's still at me. He's trying to drive that point. I'm going to turn over to the other side. So from here, up, over. So blade tip down, blade tip up. And now I'm in the spot where he states, in this case, if you were an armor, he could use this right here. The armpit's a really nice spot here to stab. But this right here, he stabs the guy in the chest. That's what he states. And when he says the chest, I think he's talking about right below the ribcage line. That gives me access right here. Big thing about this right here is that's the first formulation right here of when I see Mezza Volta, okay? So at the end of the day, why might it be feet or hands? Well, remember, we have all the directions in which this guy may be coming at us with a dagger. If he comes off the Revezzo side and I step into it, well, one, I don't have to change my wrist hand right here anymore, right? But I came from a spot on this side to coming over and then stepping into it. I went from one left side over and I'm into the position with a Mezza Volta of my body position. I hit him right here. Remember, we may not be talking about, okay, yes, we have people on the list here paying attention to us. I'm ready. I'm going. That's not what we're necessarily talking about here. This could be somewhere right here where I might be walking on like this. He comes with that knife shot from the Revezzo side. And that's about as much as I got. So I turn into this right here, and then I play into the other side. That is using Mezza Volta to cover and allow me to turn his arm and the dagger into his body, okay? So before we get too much caught on like what the nuance of the words are, I think his message is very simple. The shot comes in, sixth master cover, comes in right here. Off of this, if I've covered it this way, and he's still pressing in at me, like he's trying to keep this right here, I'm going to turn over and stab inside. You can already tell because I'm on one side here and coming over and turning over. So that right there in itself may be more along the lines of where you line up with your feet. Maybe I go with my right foot forward. Shot comes in, I'm here. He drives in at me, and there's Mezza Volta, and I turn into his chest space, right? If I just crust into him, and I increase into it, boom, then the only thing I have to do here, press in, is a Mezza Volta of the wrist, in this case right here, to be able to stab into the chest. So it's relevant to what you're doing here. The point is, off of the pressure, roll with it, turn with it. We're not going into a full lock. We're not trying to lock it in one spot. We're going to roll with it and use that to drive into a spot that's advantageous in that attack. Regardless of the line of it all. So again, here's the thing. If he comes off of the Revezzo, right? Off right here, I can just step into this. My whole body is coming over his shoulder here. In this case, this is not simulating a real situation here, but if his arm is strong against me here on this, like if I step with all my body, his arm, I'm sorry, as strong as this young man is, his deltoid is not going to stop my 40-year-old ass from just pushing it down on the ground like this. So understand that we're now utilizing weight leveraging within that line structure that gains entry into here. It's basic cover line. Get yourself behind the strike. Strike comes in Revezzo. Get behind it, turn into him. Okay? Strike comes Mandrito. Get behind it, he presses against me still, and rotate into that position. Again, from here to here. All we're doing is we're rotating that over. I'm keeping this up, and I'm turning this in. We're not doing a full rotation with this. We're keeping our hands in a place where it comes in line. If it's a lower position, shot comes in. Here, this is where it gets interesting. Because in this case right here, if he's driving in with a point, I come off here, and it's still the same kind of concept. But you see, points off to the left side, shift with the body. The thing that's dangerous here is, this is still in play. His arm is still in play. The whole point right here is not that we're not just sitting here going, aha, I won the point. The reality is, once I've stabbed him with this dagger, is I'm probably going to control him as fast as possible. Low shot, in, presses in, come here, I'm going to grab it. Because I don't want him to hit me again. I don't want him to have the chance. And I'm going to keep smashing this in here. Okay? It doesn't matter the direction. Off of this, the first thing is, this is not going to lights out him. He's not going to lay down on the ground and just die. He's going to try to strike back. That's a big part about this right here. Which is why the throw them to the ground is so incredibly important. Is because if this is inside of a person and I throw him to the ground, I am now tearing this up in his guts. I'm not trying to be morbid about this, people. I'm just trying to be honest about it. Okay? So, off the Mandrito side, here, pressure in comes in. I told her to rotate here. I'm going to maintain this. If I keep his body to this right here, now that left hand is here, and now we're going back into the second play where I maintain the wrist. I got this spot. I can work this. Maybe I hit him in the guts and he retracts away from me on this. Now he's pinned away from this. Now I can get away from him even more where I put his body away from me. The reality is, though, you'd want to maintain that person. Because if I stick him, it's not done. He'll come back with much more on that. Revezzo side, in, shot, shoot. Down right here, maintain. And now you can see I can push with the push of the elbow, I can stick him in the guts. The thing is here, hold my dagger for a second here. Why am I having him hold this? To simulate him actually going to his body. This is where third master might come into place. Let go, let go. Stand. The guy's standing at this point with a dagger in his guts. It's a bad day. So that might be take his ass to the ground. Thank you. So point being here is that just because we stab him in the chest, we have to remember the theory that he tells us. Take the dagger away, strike him. In this case, we are striking, taking it away, and then striking him with the dagger. We can go off that right here. I can break his arm, I can bind his arm, I can do that here. And from that right there, I can drive him to the ground. And why are we doing in that order? Because this fight's not done, okay? So those are all pieces right there that kind of formulate what we may be looking at with the Six Master Dagger cover in this play.
So you can see with the video that when I'm talking about turning and everything else here, so Mezza Volta to me, we've already talked about footwork wise and everything else. To me, that's kind of common sense as far as when it goes down to these things, especially how he writes it. It's very, 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 very pretty direct as far as what you can do with it. But Mezza Volta of the sword, we don't necessarily know what that means because he's silent on it. To me, it's an anatomy thing, and I've said this before in some other videos, that a stable turn is I'm playing on one side. I can only doing one side where I'm playing with this. Mezza Volta is where you're turning over here, like I've demonstrated in the footage, and then the full rotation right here is your tutta volta. To me, these right here have greater effects that happen later on when you change the combat tool that's in your hand, and also maybe the scenario in which you are angled in on somebody. These are very key, these are very important, especially when it comes down to armor, where you may have range of motion limitations, you may have visual limitations, you may have breathing limitations. There's a lot of things in there that we don't always consider when it comes to this. This play right here is, again, a point of what happens, off of a cover and they stay with it. So if I stay if I stay on a bind with somebody, I have a choice of action. If they don't do anything, well, then just go to the second play and go to the sticking mechanism, which you've already seen before. But what happens if they start pressing in on somebody? And now I can rotate. And that's where you see this rotation, that rotation of the wrist here, over to, and I move in and I stab into, he says, it's the chest. This play right here specifically is also very important because, in my opinion, you're getting elements of Vera Croce earlier on in this play that eventually translate later on into your sword, your armored sword, and your axe sections. This kind of concept of rolling, displacing, and shooting in is a big part of a lot of stuff that happens in armor. And again, everyone's suit's a little bit different out there. Some people have got incredible suits of armor that they basically are walking with skin on. My armor, I can do the same thing as well. However, I do experience where plates come up together and they mesh and mingle, where that's going to basically stop my anatomy from moving in certain ways here. And because I observe those things, it's important that I have to do these rotational movements, which allow me to gain access and entry into somebody in such a form and fashion that shuts that down. So this is another example of that. And by looking at that in a way that allows me to say, okay, I got this right here, then what we can start seeing is that essentially this play is a way to be able to play off of somebody here that may be using force on factors right there still continuously. So remember what I said before about Six Master. If I come up and crack really hard on right there, if I hit the person's arm, one, in this case right here, it's, and I experimented with this with just a wooden rondelle. To me, it sucks. I mean, again, other people may say, well, it doesn't hurt me any. Well, I'm happy for you. For me, it sucks to have a wooden dowel slam into my forearm. I can't even imagine what that'd be like with that actual sharp dagger that's being slammed into my arm at the same time. So this tells me right here a couple things have happened. Either A, this is a person right here who is, the parry was not as effective as it could have been, or we're starting to see that the dialogue of armor is more of a nuance and a continuation of things and not just a suit. So it could very well be that the person that you're performing this against here, because like I said in other videos, what happens if the guy's wearing armor on the forearm? I mean, it's very easy to conceal a vambracer. So what's saying that this person here doesn't have something right here and he has it specifically on his right hand, so when he comes in with the shot, it doesn't hurt. That's not going to stop a Six Master cover. Plays like this make me consider that, once again, we are looking at the anatomy, again, of what happens if things go through, what happens if things stop, and what happens if, we have to go either direction to create the space of shutting down someone's arm. So this here is a very fun one right here because it teaches you once again roll, move, and turn with an attack. It is a gateway guard into the what I think is the Vera Croce. It is shortened because it's a Mezza Volta, assumedly, right? That we're coming up and then over, which allows that Mezza Volta to play onto one side. It can be the feet, it can be anything. But it also allows for us to understand that rolling motion into places, and also how that rolling motion is a way to get into a position, attack into a spot, and to stab in a way that's viable. This also reinforces the concept that was said in the very beginning, that you don't want to grab the point of the dagger, because you need to, one, it's got to be able to do something right here. And if you could imagine, like, you grab the point and I go like this and I just punch my own dagger into my own hand into somebody, that's a bad time. So your eye-hand coordination onto the dagger needs to be effective in order to be able to deploy it in a way that is meaningful within this kind of situation. So again, there's a lot here that comes down to this, and that's one of the things I love about Six Master Dagger, is that you're starting to see a connection point about movements, tactical considerations, then techniques and tools that can convey way later on in his manuscript that are very important right here. The motion's the same, but the application is a little bit different because it's smaller. I don't have to be big with this, but ultimately how to play offline and shift and find weak points in a person's armor or just in their body is very important. So that's going to do it for this video right here. Again, thank you so much for tuning in here. To my viewers and to my subscribers, thank you so much as always. Please, as always, leave a comment below, share with a friend. If you're new to the channel, do the same, please. We'd love to have you here. We'd love to hear your thoughts and considerations. And I really want to grow this channel here to really help out more with what we can do with the world of historical martial arts. And that's not possible without viewers like you. Don't forget to hit the bell to see when more content drops here. And as always, everyone out there, please, until I see you next time, stay safe out there, train well, and fight on. I'll see you all soon.